Thank you so much for joining us today. We know how busy you are. We're a group of professional support staff from the Toronto District School Board, and we work in different ways with families and schools to help all children succeed. Speaking today will be me, Fiona Curry. Sorry, oh, someone's just asking for the link there. Adam, maybe I think perhaps if you joined after it was posted, you may not be able to see it. So I'm Fiona Curry from Psychological Services and the mother of a complex needs child. And we also have Andrea Wiltsey, occupational therapist, Jay West, speech language pathologist, and Maria Antonia Amarich, who's a social worker. And behind the scenes, but equally important, we have Adam de Mendonça, who's operating the chat. He's a child and youth worker, and Dana Morris, also from Psychological Services, who will be working the slide deck. If you have any questions as we're presenting, please post them in the chat for Adam, and we will address as many as we can in the question and answer period at the end of the presentation. We will try to address general themes, so we may not be able to answer questions specific to your child because we want to respect everyone's time and make sure that everyone who wants to participate has the opportunity to be heard. Please also be aware that this workshop is being recorded so that you and other people can view it at a later time. That being said, we want to respect everyone's privacy and unfortunately can't give specific advice about your situation, but we're happy to share resources where you can get help. We will be sharing a lot of resources with you, and we will explain how to get them later as well. If you would like to access the closed captioning, there is a button in the middle of, at the lower part of your screen. And you just have to click on, sorry, Jay, if you can jump in, I can't see it right now because I've minimized. I think it's, what would people have to press again?
Show subtitle.
Show subtitle, thank you.
Mhm.
And that will give you a transcript at the bottom of your screen of what everyone is saying. Okay, thank you, Dana. We're going to be talking today about mental health, and you might be wondering what it has to do with helping your child learn. When some people hear the words mental health, they think mental illness, but mental health is really just feeling good about yourself, being able to carry out your daily tasks and activities, and to have good relationships with others. And mental health has a huge impact on how well children can learn. We all have good days and not so good days, and this is a normal part of life. But having good mental health means that you have the ability to enjoy the happy or fun moments in life and to cope better when things aren't going as well. So what are some of the factors that contribute to good mental health? You will see from this picture that there are a number of things that are important. There are others too, but we want to focus on some factors that are particularly relevant for you and your kids. So today we'll be talking about tips for understanding your child's behavior so that your child is successful and your family functions well. Some self-regulation tips or how we manage stress, how to address your child's sensory needs, the connection between behavior and communication, and the tools that you can use to help your child communicate what they want or need, the role of routines and structure using schedules and other tools, and then planning for your future and seeking out resources so that you connect with others and get help. We want to acknowledge the different challenges that many of you have likely faced because of our current world situation. And being a parent of a child with complex needs means that even before the pandemic, you were likely faced with more challenges than most families. So often that means being in survival mode, getting by on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour, even minute-to-minute basis. Some of you have children going to school, and there may be, some nervousness associated with that, wanting them to be safe given the current situation. Others of you may be trying the online option which also may be associated with stress because it's a new way of learning. So here's a partial list of some of the issues you're probably facing, and we don't need to go over them in detail other than to say that because of the pandemic, it has made many of these issues more difficult, especially for those people who have been dealing with issues related to discrimination because of race, culture, gender identity, or some kind of disability. So we really just wanted to emphasize that today and to say that this is an important part to acknowledge. Let's talk a little bit about stress, because sometimes when we hear the word stress, we'll say, oh, I'm so stressed, I couldn't sleep last night, or my children are stressing me out. But stress isn't always negative. We actually need some stress in our lives to perform well. So if you look on the left-hand side of the graph where the guy is just hanging out on the couch, you need a little bit of stress in your life to prepare for important events, such as if you have to take your child to the doctor or you have to make it on time to work. It helps us keep us alert and helps us perform better. Also, now that we're dealing with COVID, being worried sometimes actually helps make us safe. It helps encourage us to wash our hands, wear masks, and keep socially distanced from others. The trouble is, if we feel too much stress, so go all the way over to the right, it's not good for our health. It's hard to focus, it's hard to be patient, right, especially as parents, and to have good relationships with our family members. The idea is to have just enough, but not too much, stress to be at our best. Because if we feel high amounts of stress, it's important that we try to minimize that. And I know what I'm saying, right? A lot of things that you can't control are going to make you feel stressed. But if we can limit how much time we're on the right side of the graph there and try to return to the middle to a calmer and more relaxed state. Again, easier said than done. We know, though, that children do better when at least one supportive adult is in the home who can provide a calm and predictable environment. In order to provide this kind of environment, it's important that we take care of our own needs first, as much as you can. So as parents, especially if you have a complex needs child, you're used to basically doing for everyone else, and then only if you have a little bit of free time, would you then try to look after your own needs. And this is understandable. But if you think about when you're on an airplane and they say, in case of emergency and the oxygen masks drop down, they always say that you should put on your own mask first in order to help those around you that may need more support. So even though you might feel guilty or you may feel, I don't have the time, helping yourself first means that you actually are helping those around you. I always say, it's making me a better mom, a better partner, a better person when I also recognize that my needs are important too. So what does this actually mean, looking after your needs in day-to-day life? It means taking care of your mind and taking care of your body. So focusing on the things that you can control, like what you eat, when you sleep, if you're lucky, taking your medication regularly, taking time for yourself if you can get it, deep breathing, limiting how much social media and news you watch, getting outside, even for a few minutes each day, accessing respite services for your family, especially when they become available again, doing something you love, even if it's for a short period of time, connecting with others, even virtually, and asking for help when you need it, which is really important. Sometimes we try to stick it out, even if it's a really hard situation, but there's no shame in saying, I need someone to help me with this. A big source of our stress comes from uncertainty. And certainly the pandemic has heightened that feeling of uncertainty for many of us. So contrast that with predictability. which tends to make us feel much more comfortable. Like we all like feeling we're in control, at least some of the time. And so it's not surprising that research shows that when we shift our focus to what we can control, even in this time of uncertainty, it's good for our well-being, health, and performance. So if you're focusing on what you can't control, that the white part around the orange circle, there's so many things, right? You could probably list, 50, things like what's happening in the world, changes to your job, how school is running, technical glitches, all of that. But focusing on what you can control is very important in this situation. So you keeping your hands washed really well, and doing all of the things to make you safe, and also maintaining social connections. Those are some basic things that you can control. Okay, so the take-home message here is that think about what's within your control, and when you're feeling stressed out, it can be very helpful to shift that focus in order to feel calmer. As we discuss ways to increase the mental health and well-being of our kids, you will notice that there is a lot of overlap between many of the strategies and tips that we're going to be giving. For example, you would see that the way we behave, feel, think, and communicate are all connected. They are all part of our ability to regulate ourselves. That is to be in a calm state of alertness, right? So that you're calm, but you're not like drowsy and kind of like zoned out on the couch. So we're going to be talking about what you can do to help your children feel safe and calm. By managing your own stress, you will help your child self-regulate or learn to manage their stress. Children learn to manage their stress by being around adults. This is often called co-regulation. And that term just means being able to support those people who are maybe stressed to try to get in a calmer state. And we do that all the time as parents. So maybe you can think of a time when you were feeling stressed, and just by being around someone or talking to someone who was calm, it helped you feel better. Well, you can do the same for your own children. So I'd like to talk a little bit about behavior, because I'm sure that if you are a parent in this situation, this is probably one of the big issues that you might want some support with. You might see from this list of possible behaviors, we call them stress behaviors, and many of them may, in your house, have been made worse by the pandemic. So difficulty sleeping, crying more, there may be more aggression, children who are really, really struggling. And it's important to recognize, though, that everyone's different. And some children may have even benefited from the school shutdown because maybe they prefer to be at home. It's very calming for them. For some children, going to school can be quite stressful. So we just want to recognize that you may have a slightly different situation in your house, but that if you are experiencing any behaviors that are listed on this page or others that you're concerned about, we're going to provide you with some resources where you can get some help. When we try to understand behavior, anyone's behavior, it's helpful to think of an iceberg. So if you're in the middle of an ocean and you come across an iceberg, a tiny little piece is sticking above the water. So think of this like the behavior that you can see. Perhaps your child is flopping to the ground and crying, or your child is screaming. But it's important to think not only about what's available above the surface, the behavior, but what's underneath the water, all of the many underlying factors that are contributing. And sometimes in that moment when your kids are acting out, it can be so hard to remember that there's usually a reason or reasons behind it. So for example, if your child has a meltdown when they get home at 3 p.m., if you think backwards, maybe not in the moment, but you might remember, oh, my child didn't sleep very well last night, or the bus was late this morning. Maybe your child didn't eat breakfast. At school, maybe there was a fire drill and your child reacted terribly to the noise. So everyone has stressful days, but as adults, it's our job to model calmness in our own lives so that our children can learn from it too. When you're thinking about a behavior that your child might be experiencing, um, you know, it's interfering with your child's ability to be successful or for your family to function very well. And it's important to consider a couple of things, and I'm going to give a couple of examples here. Many parents might say, oh, this particular behavior is really bothering me about my child. I'm going to give the example of hand flapping, which many children with autism or intellectual disabilities sometimes do. Some parents are very embarrassed by the behavior, or they say it's interfering with the child's ability to hold on to objects or to pay attention. But we know that when we're talking to adults with autism, that many of them say that that kind of behavior is actually very calming and relaxing for them. It helps them feel not so much stress. So we want to be very careful when we decide, oh, I want help with this behavior, to pick something that is not going to take away something that your child actually needs. That doesn't mean that you can't have the discussion and try to figure out ways around it, but just keep that in the back of your mind. And the second example I'll draw is from my personal life. So my son makes very loud snorting noises frequently, which on the surface, it's a little bit annoying, but people might say, well, why would you want to, go to all the trouble to do something about it? But it was happening so much, it was driving us absolutely crazy. We couldn't get away from the noise. And the thing I worried about the most was, if he's making these noises in public or when he's at school or at respite programs, are people going to get irritated, and is he not going to get the care that he deserves? So fast forward about 5 years, and I connected with some behavior analysts who are incredible. And we came up with a compromise. So it took a lot of time and effort, but we have no snorting zones in our house on certain floors. And he's still able to snort all he wants in his room and in the basement and outside. So it's really important that sometimes behaviors on the surface may not seem like a big deal, but they can have a huge impact on your family. Again, if you think that this is really interfering, then you need to reach out for help, because behavior doesn't come in a vacuum, and we need to look for clues as to why it might be happening. It's so important to, when we think of behaviors that are happening with our kids, to try to reframe it. That means try to shift what you think about it. I love the expression, kids do well if they can. That means that if your child is acting out or misbehaving, it might not be because they're just trying to get you upset or get under your skin. It may be that they lack the skills needed in order to handle the situation properly. Or it may be a sign that your child is under a lot of stress. So try to shift from thinking that your child won't do something to can't do something. Try to approach the difficult behaviors with less judgment. And believe me, I know how hard that is in the moment. And try to be a little bit more like a detective. Be curious about it. So instead of thinking, I hate when he does that, oh, I just can't stand it, why is he doing this to me? Think, I wonder why he's acting this way. Maybe he's hungry. So try to come up with some hypotheses or possible scenarios or reasons why your child might be acting that way. It takes a lot of practice, and it's not a quick fix, but having a different mindset sometimes is just what you need in the moment to get by. I am going to hand it over now to Jay.
Thank you, Fiona. Hi, everyone. I'm Jay West. I'm a speech language pathologist for the Toronto District School Board. And now I would like to spend some time talking about different communication strategies that can help support your child's well-being, learning, and behavior. So once you have a better understanding of your child's behavior, you can try some different strategies to help your child keep calm and be able to complete their daily activities. When we refer to reinforcement, We mean rewarding someone so that you see an increase in the behavior you want and the likelihood they will behave that way again. And I know this becomes tricky for some parents as they're reluctant to use reinforcers because they think it means bribing their children. However, there is a big difference. Bribery is when you give your child a reward first in the hopes that he or she will do something you want. For example, I'll give you this candy if you promise not to fight with your brother. Whereas reinforcement is requiring your child to do something you want first and then rewarding them. For example, first broccoli, then ice cream. When using tangible reinforcement, always pair this with verbal praise, clearly stating behaviors praised. For example, I really like how you sat on your chair and finished your work. We get reinforced for things all the time, including getting a paycheck at the end of the month. Using reinforcements with your children helps to give them a sense of control and therefore a sense of calm because they can predict what will happen next. We have provided you with reinforcers checklist in our resources folder that Dana's actually going to share at the end of this presentation, so you can brainstorm that what reinforcers will work for your child. Just some additional tips. Children's preferences change over time, so you might have to mix things up from time to time. You might even have to hide some of the reinforcers for a while and bring it back again in a couple of months. Create a choice board so your child can choose the reward. Reinforcement should be paired with specific feedback so your child knows which behavior you are reinforcing. For example, instead of just saying good job, you can say great eating your broccoli. You can't give too much praise. People with autism and intellectual disabilities often have language and attention issues that interfere with their ability to understand and learn from spoken language alone. So visuals are very important because they support learning and understanding because they can make abstract spoken concepts more concrete, they remain stable over time, and they provide a more powerful means to engage attention. Dana, can you just... So it is important that these visuals are presented clearly and are located in an appropriate spot. If you don't have access to a printer, cut out pictures from a newspaper, store flyers or magazines. You may also use your phone. Some examples of visual supports include the first then board, which helps motivate your child, complete a task or a couple of tasks before getting a reinforcer. Some children may even be able to complete a number of tasks before they're able to receive a reinforcer. A token board, for example, is also a good visual to increase desired behavior. Another example, as mentioned by Fiona earlier, is a visual support is a choice board. Choice boards give children the ability to express their wants and needs, especially when what they want is not within sight. So for example, a toy or food that they can point to. So if they're not able to point to them, a choice board would be very useful. Or if it's something very abstract, such an activity like tickles or playing tag. Using social scripts is one way to help prepare your child for a situation. These are stories written from your child's perspective. So from their perspective saying, I'm doing this. So to help them increase awareness of a problematic situation. These are read repeatedly with them, and again, just prior to a problematic situation. You may create your own or use ones already made, such as this one from Autism Little Learners on staying with my cohort at school. Visuals are also a great way to support routine and independence. Visual schedules, for example, help prepare a child for what is to happen throughout their day. A mini schedule can break down certain activities into smaller steps. A good example is a hand washing sequence strip. While hand washing may be on a visual schedule, such as before or after meals, the series of steps to achieve proper hand hygiene can be broken down into a series of steps. Now I'm going to hand it over to Andrea.
Hi, I'm Andrea Wiltsey. I'm an occupational therapist with the TDSB, and now I would like to focus on some other approaches for your child's well-being, learning, and self-regulation, sensory strategies. Everyone experiences information from their senses in a different way. The way that we process our movement through space, our sensations of temperature, thirst, hunger, and what we hear, see, touch, and taste and smell are unique to all of us. The way that you process the information from your senses might be quite different than the way that your child experiences it. Some sensory experiences can cause us to feel anxious or overwhelmed. Alternatively, some experiences can help us feel calm or more regulated. What works for your child will be different than what works for another. Physical movement is not only important for your physical and mental health, but many children need to have frequent movement breaks to feel just right due to their own personal sensory needs. Try to find an activity that your child enjoys. It could be going for a walk, completing an obstacle course in your home, swinging, climbing, or dancing. Movement that involves pushing, pulling, carrying, or lifting heavy items is often called heavy work. This kind of movement break or activity provides input to the joints, which helps to create a feeling of calm. Engaging in these activities can help a student to feel calmer after movement breaks that energize them, and may also help your child to feel calm if these activities are done frequently throughout the day. Find activities that work for your child. They could be fun activities like lifting and moving pillows or couch cushions to create a fort, or they could be activities to help around the house, such as sweeping, washing windows, carrying grocery bags, or helping to carry or push the laundry basket from one room to another. If engaging in these activities are difficult for your child, you might want to try some slow rhythmical rocking, such as rocking in a rocking chair, as this is also calming for your sensory system. One of the most beneficial exercises that we can do to help us relax is deep breathing. Deep breathing takes practice and it can be quite difficult to learn. If this is the case for your child, you can focus on teaching the out breath, as this is the part of the breathing cycle that helps us to relax the most. You can encourage your child to practice blowing a feather, pinwheels, or bubbles. Some children benefit from lying down and putting their hands or their stuffy on their stomach to watch their stomach rise and fall with their breath. Your child may benefit from a visual cue, such as a picture of a cookie, to help them visualize smelling the cookie and then blowing on the cookies to help them cool down. A visual of this cookie breathing is also included in the resource folder. If your child is participating in virtual learning, you can help to support them by trying some of the following strategies. Use natural light where possible. Keep the environment free of distractions, clutter, and noise, as some people can be sensitive to sounds or to light and visual information. Some children may benefit from headphones to block out sounds if they're sensitive to noise. Try providing frequent breaks with calming sensory activities such as sensory bins that provide a low demand activity. Some people have the need to move or fidget quite frequently. This movement may help some people to feel calm or just right, even though it may appear that they're not paying attention. These children may benefit from a fidget toy or frequent movement breaks throughout the day. If you have a beach ball, you could try to inflate it a little, put it on a chair, and let your child sit on it, as it provides a little bit of movement. Standing rather than sitting might work for your child, or just allowing them to change their position frequently as needed. There are some other ways to support your child as they learn virtually. As a parent of a child with complex needs, you may have to play more of an active role in helping your child during these lessons. This might include a range of things, from helping to keep your child engaged in lessons to helping them use materials sent home by the teacher. Although you are playing a supportive role, you are a vital part of your child's success. Here are some tips for collaborating with the staff who are teaching your child virtually. First of all, communicate with your child's teacher about what the daily routine will look like so you can prepare. There may be times that you will need to participate more actively than others. For example, during circle time or lesson time versus free time. Note though, that free time or leisure time is an important part of learning, whether it's at home or in the physical school building. Ask your child's teacher about their preference for how and when to communicate. For example, do they prefer email or a phone conversation? Are they more available during before and after school hours, or do they have a prep time? Find out what goals your child was working on last year in their IEP, so you have a sense of how long your child can sit, if at all, and what supports were put in place to help your child participate. Maybe they used a first then board, a token board, or maybe a sensory tool like a chewy tube or a rocking chair. You and the child's teacher, again, may have to set small obtainable goals at first, recognizing that what worked last year in a school environment may not be as effective at home, at least at the beginning. In many ways, you are assuming the role of an educational assistant because you are helping to provide gentle support to increase your child's ability to pay attention while they are in the learning space. For many complex needs children, it will be very difficult for them to sit down and look at a computer screen. Speaking to their teacher about what their expectations are of how you will assist your child and come up with a plan together will help. Your child's teacher may use a first then or a token board to help motivate your child. If so, he or she may ask you to give a reward to your child once they've earned it. For example, they may ask you to give 5 stars on a token board for participating in circle time. Again, it's important to figure out together what rewards or reinforcers work for your child. We've included a form in the resources that you can fill out to help you, your child, and the teacher determine what objects, food, or activities are going to help motivate them. Finally, realize that there will be bumps along the way. Your child might resist being in the learning environment or participating at all. Give it time. In addition, you may not have the time or the energy to assist your child full-time while they are learning virtually. Again, speak to your child's teacher and try to come up with a plan together. This is a new process for everyone, so don't feel guilty or feel like you're being a bad parent if things don't work out the way you had hoped. I'm going to pass it over to Maria Antonio now.
Sorry, I was muted. Hi, everyone. I'm Maria Antonia Imrich, social worker with the autism team in the Toronto District School Board. So far we have shared various strategies for supporting children with their learning, their well-being and behavior. I would now like to spend some time discussing what to do when faced with challenging behaviors, additional ways to access supports and planning for quality of life. It may seem obvious, but the best way to deal with a meltdown is to prevent it from the first time from happening from the first place. You're the expert on your own children and likely can tell when they are beginning on the roller coaster ride to the top of the tantrum mountain. Some children get quiet and withdrawn, while some become active and agitated. For some, there is a change in the tone of volume and the tone or volume of voice. Many parents are frequently on edge because their child engages in harmful behaviors and towards themselves and towards others. While we can't predict all meltdowns, we can try to follow the following strategies. Sorry, we can try the following strategies. Look for signs of escalation so that you can modify the environment. As Andrea was saying, you can change your environment to make it cooler, darker, less demanding, less noisy. This is a good time to remind your child of any calming strategies that you taught them previously. Reduce the amount of instructions you're giving and use some gestures or visuals. When we get stressed, we have more difficulty processing language, and children with complex needs often have difficulty processing language in the first place. So show a picture of a breathing or walk or a quiet room. Avoid using certain words like no or can't, and pick your battles. If your child wants to wear socks with sandals, let him or let her. As long as it's not hurting anyone, let it go. Breathe. It sounds cliche, but deep breathing calms the body, which then calms the mind. And as Fiona was saying, co-regulation is very important to help with self-regulation for our children. So the calmer you are, the calmer your child will be. And I'm going to pass to Fiona for a short time, and she's going to share some of her own experiences, and I'm going to continue.
Thank you, Maria Antonia. This is a really difficult topic to discuss about how to manage a crisis. And I'm sure that some or many of you have faced situations along the way, particularly as your children get older and bigger. And it can be a very different situation at home than it is at school. So we're going to go over some general strategies, but if you feel like your child or any family member is at risk because of the behavior that's happening at home, you need to reach out for help. And as I said before, we're going to go over some resources at the end. I will say personally that I've been in several scary situations over the years. And where I've been worried about my son's safety, my husband's, even my other child. And when you're in a situation like that, it feels like time just stops. And sometimes you feel so much anger at what's happening because you feel like, it's happening to you on purpose. You feel frustrated, sad, most of all scared. And so I just want to say that there's no shame in saying that there are situations that you feel like you can't handle. There's help out there, and talking to other parents can help, but also we're going to go over some community resources and other resources. And then Maria Antonia is going to go over a few more suggestions now as well.
So safety planning is important. It's possible, if possible, look at developing a plan before behaviors are escalating. And in this plan, you can put in your list of things who can help, objects or phrases that may help your child to calm down, and consult with your school about the child's safety plan if it's available, and to see how these incidents are managed at the school. When you feel your child may be escalating, set very clear, simple, reasonable requests that you can follow through. For example, use first then language. Try not to promise your child something that you can't deliver, like offering a pony for calming down, or try to make realistic offerings. Keep the tone of voice neutral and soft when speaking, as well as neutral body language. You want to be assertive, but not threatening. This can be tough, especially if you're feeling angry or scared. So take deep breaths. Remember, children do what they do well when they can. So try not to take it personally. Let your child know what you're going to do before you take an action. For example, tell them before you're going to take an item away from them, or moving your child to a different space. After a meltdown, after this experience, this could be a very traumatic experience for everybody involved. It is important to have someone to talk to after a serious incident occurs and comfort your child. Reevaluate the safety plan later on with other family members. What worked, what didn't. It is important not to view outbursts as a failure or as a personal attack, but as an opportunity to learn, either of things to avoid or a sign that you may need more help. We will be reviewing some resources after this presentation that you can access to address crisis. Take a break. With more time spent indoors and fewer supports around, you may feel that you need a break more often than before. That is okay. Try to schedule breaks into the day before difficult, stressful tasks. If it has been a challenging week, take a day to focus on fun activities. Do not feel guilty about wanting a break. The dishes can wait. All children, regardless of individual needs, are working on modify expectations right now. Increased screen time is not the end of the world. Try not to give a break out of frustration. A break should be seen as a positive time for you both. Think about how you can connect to positive behaviors. Have a plan for how you're going to transition your child out of the break activities. For example, using a timer or a song or a natural activity to lunch or dinner. I just wanted to talk a little bit about and switch gears a little bit from crisis to thriving. We all have dreams for our children and as they grow, they also have dreams for themselves. Often families of children with complex needs might be too overwhelmed to solving day-to-day challenges and might not take the time to plan for the future. It is important to move from crisis to thriving. Person-directed planning is a process where the person with a disability and her family looks at their life dreams and sets short-term and long-term goals towards achieving them. How do you see your child in 1 year, in 5 years, or in 10 years? What obstacles are in the way? Fiona was mentioning some for her son. Where and who can help? Spending time thinking about the future and setting up goals for your child gives you hope and purpose. Several agencies included in this resource package that we're that we put in the chat offer these services. It takes a village. Build your team. This is your circle of support. You might include professionals and respite workers, but also family members, close friends, trusting neighbors, or your local church. Being able to quickly access information for your child will help you access services and share information with other service providers in an effective manner. Keep information handy on a binder or on your phone. I've listed a few ideas here about what to include, like dislikes and likes for your child, what you're working on, any diagnostic and medical needs and communication tools. But I welcome parents to share in the chat things that they keep handy to provide to service providers and to share with other parents as well here. As mentioned before, caregivers need to put their oxygen mask first. Treat yourself with kindness. Treat yourself as you would treat others. Think of respite as an opportunity for you to recharge and for your child to have enjoyable activities in her community. This is good for both caregiver and child. Under current circumstances, respite options, unfortunately, in the community have been affected. Many services and programs were canceled. We have listed in our resource package some that are still available. Hopefully the situation will resume soon. I wanted to talk a little bit also about focusing on what's working well for your child and family. And this is not only during the pandemic, but also as you are planning and thinking about how you're achieving your goals with your child, is to really celebrate those bit of successes. Realize that it may take several tries and repetition for a skill to be learned. Focusing on small successes help you to stay focused on the efforts and to switch from an experience, from a frustrating experience to a positive one. Think of what's the least amount of help your child needs to finish a task, such as eating or dressing by themselves. It's really important to make sure that they have the least amount of support and let them finish independently as much as possible. See the image in the hierarchy of prompts here, from full physical prompts, which is the least independence, to visual prompts as the most independence. We all work with visuals. For example, in the traffic lights, we follow rules with traffic lights. That is giving us an idea of what to do in the road. We want our children to be able to follow the visual prompts with independent tasks and daily living tasks. Teach your child to ask for help when they need more assistance. The more skills your child is able to perform independently, better access to community supports and activities, hence better quality of life for both in the present and later in life. And finally, on this slide, we learn better when we're having fun. So again, use reinforcers. We need them and lots of them. This is what motivates us to keep going. For some of us, we have, we might like social praise or recognition. Some of us like chocolate or a paycheck at the end of the month, or perhaps a next travel adventure. The same is for children with complex needs. Sometimes the reinforcers might not be so obvious, but discovering them and using them to motivate your child are essential in achieving your goals. I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my notes here. I'm just, I lost my train of thought here, but I'll get there. Often parents wonder how they know when to reach out for help for themselves or anyone in the family. You may want to think about reaching out for help when these statements are true for yourself or someone in the family. We know that many children may show some challenging behaviors at the beginning of the school year, or it will take time to adjust, and it will take time to adjust. However, if you notice new behaviors or behaviors that are extreme or more frequent than what you're used to seeing, or if you or any family members are at risk of harm, please seek out help. Who can help? These are the many professionals who have experience working with children with complex needs. Start by reaching out to your child's teacher. You can also ask to speak with the classroom staff that work with your child, special education staff, or the principal. Also, every school has a school team, including an assigned psychology, social worker, speech and language, occupational and physiotherapy, and often a child youth worker and child youth counselor work at the school. You can ask for your school to the school administrator about having a school support team meeting in order for the team, including you, to develop a plan for your child. Other supports are in the community, also a family doctor or a community counselor in a community agency that you can see in the resource list that we have posted for you to have. Questions?
So hi, it's Dana here, and I know Adam is on the chat box, so we only have about 5 minutes left. There are resources that hopefully you've had a chance to look at. If you do have questions about that, you can ask those as well. I'm happy to go through them, but maybe we can just use this last little while to address the questions that have come up. So thank you, everybody.
Adam, do you want to jump in?
Hi, sorry guys. Yes,
That's
I think so the first question addressing a family being asked or sort of advised that this is a time to catch up. And I think that it might be a good time to maybe focus if you wanted to focus on reading and writing, but I don't think that there should be an expectation that you sort of catch right back fully up. I think if you know you work with where your child is at and we're focused on moving them, you know, to the next step rather than trying to set a goal and reach that goalpost. It might that's putting a lot more pressure on yourself, I think, than is realistic given the circumstances for right now. And the second question is about virtual school specifically.
Sorry, Adam.
Yep.
I just want to jump in about the question about reading in particular, because as SLPs, we do work on literacy as well. And when you're told that the advice is to catch up, obviously, just like what Adam said, you don't need to have an expectation that that's what you're going to be working on, but you can certainly work on it incidentally Like when you're walking around, depending on your child's level of reading, for example, you can start, if you're walking around the community or around the park, you can start talking about, for example, ooh, what words start with sound? Like again, this is just a general suggestion. It's not something that's specific to your child. Again, I do not know the where your child's level is at, but it's something that you can teach incidentally. It doesn't have to be a plan that you're going to be teaching it, but you can make it part of your day.
And the second question here was more about virtual school and wait times for referral services and I guess assessments. I don't know if anyone else here is working with virtual school or how that referral process is different for students who are in virtual school, but I'm not sure. So that will be something that we will look into, and we will post a question and answer document in the resource folder that we provided here. And once we nail down that answer, we will it will be in that we'll post it in the document.
I think the process is still being figured out, and every school is going to be different in terms, and every provider is going to be different in terms of the wait list. So it's important that you reach out to your school administrator and teacher and have a talk about it. Looks like there was another question that just came up. Yeah, that's great.
So I think with regard to another virtual conference in the near future, I think that it'll depend on the feedback from this conference. As of now, I don't know that we have a date or time set up for a specific one. And I think maybe with regard to more specific strategies related to individual cases, it is best to reach out to your teaching team, somebody that maybe has worked with your child in the past, that would be better able to problem solve with the specific challenges that you may be experiencing.
This particular conference was hosted by PIAC, and I'm trying to remember what PIAC stands for. Parent Involvement Advisory Committee. So they're on Twitter. They have, their website is Toronto PIAC. And if that's something that you're interested in, maybe reach out to them and give them feedback that this is a topic that's of interest to you. I feel so bad. We don't have very much time left because the next presentation is going to be starting in 5 minutes. Thank you all for joining us today. If you do have other questions, as Adam said, we can post it in a Q&A and attach it to this, get it to you somehow. If you have any questions about anything that you heard today, you can always go back to your school team and ask any number of professional support services staff like all of us here, and they can help you out as well. Does anyone have anything to add before we go?
And I was just going to say, so we will be posting Q&A in that folder that you have the link to, and also in that folder you will find, it's not there yet, but we will be posting the slides from this presentation. So you'll be able to look back over the information we've presented, and as well this presentation was recorded, so you'll also be able to view this if you wanted to watch it again or share it with others.
And there's a great community resources document. I think Dana's mentioned it. So if you're looking for immediate help, it contains pretty much most of what's out there. So I highly advise you look in that and just keep it handy for the future if you don't need it right now. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thanks.